Alright guys, another day and we're back for another instalment of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. Time is running out for Championship clubs to get their business done and over the line, but we've got plenty to talk through in today's video. Obviously coming off the back of a jam-packed weekend in the Championship. If you went to any of the games over the weekend, get your thoughts on them down below. We've got a massive game coming up in the Championship tonight between Burnley and Leeds. Very much looking forward to that one. And we've also got one game coming up in midweek as well. That sees Portsmouth going up against Millwall. Feel free to drop your score prediction for that game in the comments down below. Myself personally, I'm fancying a Portsmouth win, 2-1 Pompey I'm saying. I know they're coming off the back of a heavy defeat on the road to West Brom over the weekend, but they've won their last 4 consecutive games at Fratton Park. And while Millwall got a good win away at Luton over the weekend, I still feel like they're figuring things out under Alex Neil. But yeah, feel free to drop your score predictions for that game down below. Without any further ado, let's jump into the done deals. Speaking of Portsmouth, we've seen them signing Australian defender Hayden Matthews from Sydney FC. The 20-year-old centre-half stands at 6'5", and Portsmouth have been quite proactive in going into the Australian market during this transfer window, haven't they? They've already signed Thomas Wadringham from Brisbane Roar. So yeah, interested to see how that one turns out. Middlesbrough fans will be pleased to know that Ben Doak will be remaining at the club for the remainder of this season. Liverpool did have the option to recall the youngster during this January window if they'd have liked to, but Liverpool's option to go ahead and trigger that clause has since passed. Now, there was quite a bit of interest in Doak from some fellow Premier League clubs during this transfer window. There was a bit of speculation that Liverpool would recall him and then look to sell him on elsewhere. That's not happened, and he will be remaining as a Borough player until at least the end of the season. So yeah, that's a big boost to their promotion bid. And speaking of Middlesbrough, Judge Edmondson's loan deal has been converted into a permanent signing. There were a few rumblings that Middlesbrough were looking to negotiate a permanent deal with Ipswich, and this one has since been confirmed. I've seen it reported that Middlesbrough will be paying Ipswich a fee of around about 650k to make the transfer permanent. So after a few weeks of speculation, that one has now been ticked off. We've also seen Bristol City forward Fally Mayulu heading out on loan to Sturm Graz for the rest of the season. All been a bit of a funny transfer, this one really. Obviously, he only came in at Bristol City over the summer. The transfer hasn't really worked out so far. Had a few decent signs early on, scored a couple of nice goals in his first few matches, but after that point never really kicked on. He's not been a regular starter for Bristol City this season, and I mean, it almost reminds me of the sort of Jeppe Ockels situation that we've had at Preston. Ockels was our biggest summer signing. We paid quite a bit of money for him, and we've already sent him out on loan to Aberdeen as he didn't really acclimatise to life in the Championship. So yeah, I'm interested to see what the long-term plan with him is. But there are some of the done deals that have gone through in the Championship over these last few days. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. And we'll start out with a bit of Hull City news, because according to the reports that are coming out today, it's looking like the Tigers could be the Championship club that are going to win the race for Louie Barry. As per the reports which are coming out now, Barry is set to undergo a medical at Hull City ahead of his loan deal there for the remainder of the season. Now, we've discussed the Aston Villa youngster countless times on this channel throughout the January window. Plenty of Championship clubs have thrown their hat in the ring for the youngster. There's been a bit of interest from Scotland as well, following on from how well he'd done in the first half of the season while out on loan with Stockport. And I've got to be honest, I didn't see this one coming. The amount of Championship clubs that were interested in Barry that are currently battling it out at the top end of the Championship, this one would be a real statement of intent from Hull for the remainder of the season. I think he's just the sort of player that Hull probably are lacking right now. You know, they have lacked a bit of a spark sometimes in the final third, especially with the likes of Liam Miller and Bellumi being out with long-term injuries right now. But I really like the way Ruben Sellers has gone about things recently. Obviously, they're coming off the back of a tremendous result last time out against Sheffield United, and yeah, snapping up a player like Louie Barry on loan for the remainder of the season would be a cracking bit of business by Hull. Another player that Hull have been in talks with recently is Huddersfield Town's Seb Thomas. Now, according to the latest reports, Hull have agreed a transfer fee with Huddersfield Town, but there is a bit of a stumbling block in this deal because the winger's currently out on loan in France, and the club he's out on loan with would basically need to agree to cut his loan deal short if Hull are able to sign him before the January deadline. So it does appear as if there are a few technical technicalities that Hull will need to jump through if they are to land Seb Thomas on a permanent basis, but he's someone who they are still looking at, it would seem. Bayer Leverkusen are the latest club to register an interest in Sunderland's Joe Bellingham, who's been linked with countless sides from around Europe. Now, what we've been saying about Bellingham recently still applies to this transfer rumour. It is very unlikely that he's going to leave Sunderland this late on in the January transfer window, and any rumours surrounding the Sunderland youngster right now are probably going to be more prominent heading into the summer. But Leverkusen, another club who are going to be putting their hat in the ring to try and sign him. I can feel a bit of a bidding war that's going to come along probably in the summer for Bellingham. And speaking of Sunderland, Besiktas forward Semih Kosoy is the latest forward being linked with a move to the Stadium of Light. The 19-year-old will certainly fit into Sunderland's recruitment strategy. He's a young promising player who the club would look to develop. According to the latest reports, Sunderland would be looking to go in with a loan to buy offer, similar to how they've agreed a deal for Enzo Lefebvre, with it being claimed that if Sunderland were promoted to the Premier League, they'd have to pay a fee to Besiktas of just shy of £17 million. He had a good season last time around in the Turkish top flight, scoring 11 goals. Like I say, he's only 19 years old as well. But Sunderland aren't alone in their interests. I've also seen the likes of Newcastle and Ajax linked with the youngster. Plymouth's Billy Mumba had been linked with a move to Borough earlier in the window, but according to local reports, Borough won't be going after him this month. Obviously, Borough recently have already raided Plymouth for arguably their best player, snapping up Morgan Whittaker in a deal worth £8 million with add-ons. But going off the latest reports, they won't be going back in for Mumba. Leicester City's Hamza Chowdhury is set to undergo a medical at Sheffield United ahead of his loan deal for the remainder of the season, and Sheffield United will have the option to buy at the end of the season as well. This one has been rumoured for quite a while. It's been on the cards for the last few weeks, but it does look like that one's close to getting over the line now. And we've had some massive news coming out today surrounding Swansea City's Matt Grimes. Coventry have already had 2 bids turned down for the Swansea midfielder, but are preparing to go in with a third, and it's said that Grimes has his heart set on a move to Coventry, and it's now looking increasingly likely that he will be leaving Swansea before the end of the January window. Now, Matt Grimes is someone who's, he's part of the furniture at Swansea, isn't he? He's been at the club since 2015. There always seem to be prominent links with Grimes leaving the club. Going back for the last few transfer windows now, but nothing has ever materialised of these rumours. But there do seem to be some credible sources coming out saying that a move to Coventry could very well be on the cards now. Now, Grimes is someone who Swansea really could find tough to replace. He's someone who's racked up over 300 appearances for the club and is one of the first names on the team sheet there. You could see why a club like Coventry would be interested. But Swansea fans, I'd love to get your reaction to this one in the comments down below. Now, speaking of Swansea, Leyton Orient midfielder Ethan Galbraith is someone being eyed up by the Championship club right now. The 23-year-old is out of contract at the end of the season, so could be available at a bit of a cut price in the final days of the January window. He's a fairly versatile player. He can play anywhere in midfield or as a right back. Scored 4 goals and has got 1 assist in League One so far this season. He's one worth keeping your eye on in these final few days of the window. Sheffield Wednesday are the latest club to be linked with Stuart Armstrong. We did speak about the Scottish midfielder not too long ago, as links to Burnley have recently surfaced, but Sheffield Wednesday, it looks like, are the latest club that are going to be throwing their hat in the ring to try and sign the former Southampton midfielder who's currently playing out in the United States. I have to admit, last season for Southampton, I thought Armstrong was a really top performer for them. His role almost went a little bit underrated, really, because Southampton had a few maybe more eye-catching stars that season, but I think he'd be a top pickup for a number of Championship clubs. My team, Preston North End, have been linked with Charlton's Thierry Small. Now, this one would be an interesting pickup. The 20-year-old is out of contract at Charlton at the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if a few EFL clubs were looking at him for that reason. Now, he'll have caught the eye of a few Preston fans when we recently played Charlton in the FA Cup, no doubt. Now, as of recording, North End are yet to make any sort of contact with Charlton over a potential deal, and to be honest, this is more the sort of deal I'd imagine North End will be looking at in the summer, maybe rather than in January, because we seem to have that left wing back role sort of nailed down for the time being, having signed Jayden Magoma on loan from Brentford for the remainder of the season. But as a long-term option in that position, he's definitely someone I'd understand North End would be looking at, and why. Nottingham Forest midfielder Lewis O'Brien is being linked with plenty of Championship clubs right now, one of them being my alongside Preston, North End. And it does make sense that we are looking to strengthen that midfield department, especially with Ben Whiteman seemingly set to be out for an extended period of time. Now, you'd imagine the Forest midfielder would be made available for another loan move in January. He's recently returned from a loan move with LAFC. He's still got another 18 months to run on his contract at Nottingham Forest. Along with Preston, there's also been interest from the likes of Blackburn, Burnley and Hull. We'll wait to see if any of those clubs do firm up their interest in the Forest midfielder over these next few days. French forward Willem Goebbels is being linked with plenty of Championship clubs right now. The 23-year-old is currently playing out in the Swiss Super League, where so far this season he's scored 7 goals in 14 appearances. He's said to be valued at just over 4 million, and currently in the mix you've got the likes of West Brom, Luton, Leeds, Burnley and Norwich, and a whole host of other clubs from around the globe. Now, he is under contract until the summer of 2027, and with seemingly a lot of interest right now, you'd imagine if a club really wants to sign him, they'd have to act pretty swiftly. I've seen Christian Bielik being the latest player being linked with the move to Stoke City. He's reportedly someone that Stoke are looking at in the final week of this January window. Now, whether Birmingham would let him leave at this stage of the window is another question entirely. So far this season, the 27-year-old has started in 18 matches for the League One leaders. Fairly handy because he can cover a number of different positions. Always useful to have a player like that, especially in the run-in in a league as physically demanding as League One, where I'm sure Birmingham will be getting injuries popping up in the second half of the campaign. He's still under contract at St Andrews until 2027 as well. We'll wait and see with that one if Stoke go in with an official offer or anything like that in the coming days. Maxim Tolivarov looks to be on his way to sign for Plymouth Argyle, with Plymouth reportedly having a deal in place for the 6'5" Ukrainian international worth around about 1.7 million. And obviously Plymouth have been looking to strengthen this position in the January window. They've shipped more goals than any Championship club so far this season. Lost Lewis Gibson to Preston earlier in the window as well. But given the finances involved in this deal, they really are pushing out the boat for this one, it would seem. And Siert Mansverk looks to be on his way to sign for Cardiff on loan for the remainder of the season. The 22-year-old Norwegian midfielder is currently on the books at Ajax, where he's made 18 senior appearances. And going off the latest reports, it seems as if that deal is set to be announced imminently, with a full deal and package being agreed with Ajax until the end of the season. But that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, if you've seen anything else going on around the Championship, make sure to get it in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.